Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching or joining this from. It's nice to be here with Desiree. My name is Lola Adeyemo. I'm the founder and CEO of EQImindset. EQI is from equity and inclusion, and a mindset that my company, my services support for organizations, especially around building inclusive communities. So ERGs, employee resource groups, PRG, affinity group is my focus, and there are offerings across the entire life cycle to support your ERGs. And that's why we're here. The ERG resource session is a series I host a couple of times a month. And it's a couple of times a month that is not preset because I make it very organic. I'm looking for businesses, I'm looking for resources, I'm looking for tools and platforms that can amplify the work that the ERGs are doing internally. And that's why we're here with Desiree today. Hello, Desiree. How are you?
Hello, I am excited. Um, and yeah, just like feeling really excited. Loving your mission. I think ERGs are often the lifeblood of the culture of organizations, and so yeah, excited to be here and talk about our shared interest in supporting, elevating, and amplifying, and yeah, just like ready to get into it.
Yes, thank you. So I like to spend time on the person first before we go to the platform, your tool,
Mhm.
your company, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So let us meet you. Who are you? Where are you based? And how did you get to the life before agency?
Yes. So my name is Desiree Morton. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia. And we moved here a couple years ago. Before that, we were in the Bay Area doing the Silicon Valley thing. And so I've made my career in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I worked across higher education and then big tech, like unicorn startup tech, and then small ed tech. And I learned a lot in doing that, but one of the main things I learned is that, of course, I'm super passionate about DEI in entirety, but more so in the equity piece and the inclusion piece than the diversity kind of recruiting piece. And so that's how I got here. And I am married and have three little humans. I have identical twins, so that's a fun fact. And they're 3 years old, and they're like little balls of fire energy. And then I have a couple of dogs and some houseplants. So
Oh
that's
my
what I
God.
do with all of my time.
You have time for the plants?
Uh,
Of all
I
that.
mean, I get resilient plants
That too. That works. They're
that
probably
scream out
easier.
for
The
help.
plants are probably the easiest ones.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. The plants that are too hard, they don't make it. So if they're still here in the house and green, then they're the easy ones. Yep.
The easy ones. That's awesome. Well, it's nice to meet you. I am in California. I'm in San Diego, California, but Atlanta is home as well. So it's nice to be able to connect virtual platform. So AGINCI. I wanted to
Mhm.
spell that out because for those listening, before I spoke with Desiree, I was like, agency, agency. I was trying all of the ways that I could say the word. And then I got on the call and I asked you, how do you say the name of your company? And you're like, agency. I was like, oh,
Agency.
that works.
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell us about agency.
So as we mentioned before, wanted to have a .com. .coms are hard to get, so you have to get creative. So for anyone who is thinking about starting something, um, you just got to try every spelling you can imagine, and you'll eventually get a domain name that works for you. Or add,
Domain name that is unique
yeah,
because
or
I
add
know
get at
that
the front, or join, or try.
agency, AGENCY would have been less catchy
Yeah,
and more vanilla. So I would say I like this.
I
I know what
appreciate it.
you're
Now you
talking
know how to
about.
say it, right? Yep. Okay, so let's talk about agency. So agency is named after personal agency, which kind of rewinding a bit, personal agency, I believe, is like the foundation of equity. And so what I mean by that is, um, in order to do equitable design, you have to include voices and from different perspectives and demographics. That's kind of like the first step. But I think taking it a step further is actually giving people personal agency to choose what they need to thrive, to be successful, to define success for themselves. And so this personal agency, this choice is like at the core of everything that we're doing. And it's really what I would say is the most important part. Like the tech is like enabling us to build this and offer it to a lot of people, and hopefully offer it, at an affordable price. And so that's like the benefit of having a co-founder who knows tech. But for me, the really, really important piece is that sense of agency, that sense of choice, that sense of personal ownership over one's career. So we focus on well-being and professional personal growth. And then we also have a culture lifestyle component. And it really is about making it possible for a company to say, like, here's some money for you. Go out and find the resource that serves you right now. And then you can do that again next year or 6 months from now. And again, and the reason why is because right now you might be focused on your career growth.
Right.
In 6 months, you might be focused on wanting to grow your family or wanting to move or needing to think about your mental health. And so we're really thinking about whole humans and saying none of us need the exact same thing at the exact same time. So why are our current, employee benefits and perks set up that way that you get the same thing as the person sitting next to you at the same time?
Right, right. And I think just to clarify what you just said is really
Yeah.
important, because you're talking about personal agency for the employee.
Yes,
Talking about
absolutely.
an employee being able to have the company that claims to want to give you benefits is now putting the power in your hands to choose what you want
Yes.
for whatever period of time, and then
Mm-hmm.
to move on from there when you're ready,
Yes.
right? Which is different from the way benefits are set up, right? Because you kind of have this window where
Yep.
you pick something from these and then you lock it in. And a
Yep.
lot of times people even forget to refresh it, so it just
Mm-hmm.
keeps getting rolled over and rolled over. And then whatever the company decides to choose the next year, you don't even have the visibility to what are the criteria? How did they decide to change the benefits being offered?
Yep.
You really just choose whatever you see you
Mm-hmm.
keep doing, right? And I know the good example that I always use is the one for parents, because when I became a parent in corporate America, I remembered finding out that there was a benefit that I could use to get subsidized, almost free child support, daycare at this very nice daycare next to my work. If
Nice.
you have to come unexpectedly, or if the school was closed, so it was like backup, bright at whatever,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember what the name is. But for me, I had to dig and search to find that. How many
Mm-hmm.
employees knew that was available? The process was so, like, it wasn't transparent to find it and to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
the process is a big piece. And I think some companies are doing kind of more open, like, learning and development, you have a budget.
right,
And a lot of times they're touting that as being really open, really easy to access. But what actually happens is you have to get permission from your manager or from, your L&D department to access that budget. And then
mhm.
you have to put the money up front yourself first, pay for it, and then apply for a reimbursement. And the reimbursement comes
Yeah,
like whenever
I know about that. Yep.
whenever the person in HR is not on PTO, and not at all a drag on HR, but like for somebody who needs that money, right? I need
Mhm.
that money to pay for groceries or to pay for rent or to pay
So you're
to send
basically
money
not
to my
you're not
family.
getting the money. And I think this is also important for us to talk about a little more in terms of the landscape, the employee benefits landscape. What is happening? What exists right now?
Mhm.
Can you share some of the data around that? Like what current companies are currently doing? I think you already kind of started getting into that.
Yeah,
Um,
so I would say the employee benefits and perks landscape is a confusing, kind of jumbled mess right now. Is my short answer. There's like so many different kind of one-off services that companies will either contract with or kind of launch. I think I was reading a study recently that said that during the pandemic, companies were just kind of like pulling in anything. Like it was like mental health apps and like, memberships here and like this thing. And so they just have kind of like this like jumbled stipends and whatever. Everything is just everywhere. And so one, that of course makes it very confusing for the employee.
Yeah.
And that's like best case scenario. Best case scenario is you've got a lot of options. Worst case scenario is that you have no relevant options, which is a real thing too.
Right.
And a lot of these are the companies, kind of the mega companies that are able to support all employees, or at least that's kind of their pitch to your HR folks, right? And so they're saying, hey, we're built to support everyone. And if you like, look here, we've got like 15% BIPOC or like, whatever providers, and we're working on getting that up, and DEI, right? In reality, nothing is built to serve everyone. And if it is, it's centering the majority. And so using any kind of platform or any service that is centering the majority is going to continue to cause inequity, and to kind of continue to build and expand those gaps that exist between people who are marginalized and have multiple marginalized identities, and those
Right.
who the product was actually built for.
Right.
And so that's kind of the common denominator. Even with all of those services, it's often these kind of mainstream DEIs and afterthought companies.
Yeah. No, and I mean, if from the perspective of somebody who is in the space, who has this broad overview, if it's this confusing, I mean, like for the employee, it's like you don't have any idea. You
Yep.
just stay away from it and you just figure things out by yourself. You don't even think of your you don't even think of your employer and the options, right? Which
Yeah.
defeats the purpose, because if the
Yeah.
company is trying to do the best for the employees, and I often would hear employee benefits team say, "Oh, nobody really uses this benefit." It's like,
Yes, the
then
utilization rates are often very, very low, especially for programs like employee assistance programs. They're like less than 5% on average utilization. There's no data on differences in demographics, which like is a problem in and of itself. But I would be willing to bet a significant amount of money that folks from marginalized identities use these platforms even less than that kind of average 5%.
I like it. I like it. Somebody just used the word I was looking for: availability versus accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's available, but is it accessible?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you bring the equitable part of it into the conversation, right? Is available, is it accessible? Accessible to who?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Needed by who? Right? So there's so many pieces of the employee perks and benefits conversation, as a very small employer myself. We have a company of 9 people.
Mm.
I know I had to well, I had
Woo!
to
Sorry.
move I had to move to the PEO platform. I don't know if you're
Yep.
familiar with PEO, because I didn't know how to figure out all the confusing details.
Yep.
Um, but it was nice to be able to at least join up with other small businesses and be able to offer some really good benefits. But half of it, I don't even know what I have until I need something. Then I go looking,
Yep.
right? So, yeah, anyway, I think it's a conversation we could be here talking about all the time. So let's talk about agency. How did this get started, and how have you developed this platform to, make a difference in this space?
Yeah. So originally, we actually started as a group coaching platform. We were centering BIPOC and LGBTQ plus professionals at all levels. And my dream for this has always been that we're providing services that provide agency to the individual employee about where they're trying to go, how they're trying to get there, what works best for them. And so I was like, coaching is the way to do that. I'm a coach. That was like the first answer. And so I went to companies and I was like, hey, you want to pay for this for your BIPOC and LGBTQ plus employees? And the answer was like, yes, this is amazing. But what about these employees, or that group of employees, or that group of employees? Can you serve all of our marginalized employees, or just like everyone in general? I was like, no. If I do that, so that's like a surprising answer. If I do that, I'll make more money, right? But there's no way for me to serve everyone equitably. I have one lived experience. I have, marginalized identities myself, but like I cannot create the one service that every company is providing to all of their marginalized employees to provide them with
Mm,
agency and equity. That's not my role. That's not like, that makes me no different than some of these other huge companies, right?
right.
It's just the same with the brown face. And so I kind of went back to the drawing board, and I was like, well, how does anyone with a company that's focused on one community or two communities, and they're laser focused on serving those communities with equity in mind, how do they get business from companies, right? How do they reach employees and have the employer pay for it? The answer was they don't. And so that then became kind of the new bigger problem to solve, was reaching out, finding all of these companies that are founded by employees, founded by founders who have lived experience and who are building for their communities. So just like tons of searching, looking at all of these, different kind of founder programs and stuff to find these companies, pulling them all into one place and saying, okay, now we have about 100 companies that are founded by folks who understand their communities and are creating equitable solutions that are targeted at different demographics. Of course, anyone can use them, but they're centering their own community.
Where were you when I was in corporate and I was dependent on Google?
I was also in corporate, dependent on Google. That's where I was.
Yeah, I was like, I remember leading a women ERG and looking for something that
Yeah.
we could partner with. And I was like, I need this to resonate. Actually, it wasn't women, it was parents. We're
Mm.
trying to do a program for parents,
Mm-hmm.
ERG. And traditionally, what had been done was for a men's group. And I was like, that doesn't really, I want something that aligns with why the group exists. I want something that employee population. And I was literally Googling,
Yeah.
and I drove. I had to, search by zip codes. I want a business I knew my criteria, but I was
Yep.
like, I wish there was a way I could plug this criteria into something and choose something that means something to me and to members of this, population.
Yeah.
I ended up finding a non-profit that was focused on a farm, a neighborhood community farm that
Wow.
supported a preschool. I was super excited, right? Like, it supports preschool, so we're talking
Yeah.
about kids. It's community based. They have and it was a small neighborhood family run farm.
Oh,
And employees were like all excited. People showed up, people brought their kids, people brought their families, and we got to work, right? So I was like, what you are describing sounds like we should have had it like years ago.
yes. I mean, a lot of the startups and companies that are kind of coming up now are also fairly new, because now there's
Exactly.
space and recognition that the same thing doesn't
Exactly.
work for everyone. And so I think it's just like a really good kind of timing match,
Right.
and also just like a resource match. Like, I am a DEI professional. I am married to an MIT data engineer. So
Might as well
uh,
use the skill set.
might as well make them my co-founder and figure out how to scale this and make it work. And so yeah, so basically the way it works is a company or an ERG or any group can reach out to us. We charge $7 a seat per month, and you put in some money. You tell us kind of where your folks are allowed to use it, or if there are any restrictions, and then we put them into this marketplace and kind of support them with some programming and things like that to get to know some of the services. But they really do have the ability to input information about themselves, any demographics. They can filter by kind of values and services and products that align with who they are. And I think the really nice thing is that everything that's in there is founded by a member of the community. And so yeah, it's like
That
we're
is
elevating
huge.
these companies. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
huge because
Yeah.
I think we always talk about the fact that people use the word diversity, or like minority,
Yeah.
or DEI as a broad term. But it's not broad, because for every person who is under the umbrella of DEI, you have your own niche based on
Exactly.
your experience. So you're not an expert in everything.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
and
And to
I
think
love
you are is arrogant. Like, it's like not. Right.
No.
And that was the ask for me. I was like, you're a DEI practitioner. And I think this is the ask for many
A lot
DEI
of
practitioners who are
DEI.
still in corporate. Like, you're a
Right.
DEI practitioner. You should get it. Right. And it's like,
Right.
I can like understand the content, like the concepts. I can think about
Right.
systems and change and implementing and enabling and transfers of power. I can think about all of these things, but I am not the expert on someone who's different from me. I'm not the expert on their lived experience. Like,
Exactly.
there's no way I can be any more than you can as the,
Yeah.
CEO or whatever. So, yeah. So this way is like, it's a lot bigger of a splash, with working with so many different, founders and companies.
Yeah.
And it's far from where we started, where I was like, oh, a little bit of
Yeah.
tech, a lot of human. But I think it's gonna really enable folks to have that agency. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I love when you say it's far from where you started. I think, it's a journey that you had to go through
Mm-hmm.
because you had to walk that path to recognize this need. It kind of brings everything you've been doing um, together, and obviously you have a passion around this space. I think, to be able to bring employee perks to
Mm-hmm.
employees from members within the Lyft community is huge, is
Mm-hmm.
powerful. And partnering with companies to scale that is just amazing. I know I always get excited whenever I find a small business or an organization and they're like talking like you just did, like describing, oh, why I started this company is because of these, because
Yeah.
there are some needs that will be discovered that you wouldn't have thought about if you were not a
Mm-hmm.
part of, that lived experience.
Yep.
And that's what makes it unique. So for agency and for ERGs and for companies that are listening, that are watching this right now, how can they find you and what can they, can you summarize working with agency and what it looks like?
Yeah, for sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn. I am here all the time, Desiree Morton, and I post a lot about, I would say, equity, specifically, and just kind of um, the need to be more intentional about it. And then working with agencies, so you can go to our website, it's www.aginci.com, AGINCI, as you mentioned. And you can actually book time with me right there, on the website.
And
And
depending on
so,
where you are watching this from, I will put the link. So we're
thank you.
streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter right now. So there's some platforms might not have the chat function. So don't worry. Agency, AGINCI.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a lot of information there, but you can also reach out to Desiree or myself on LinkedIn. Which is probably easier to get hold of us, but
Yes,
I can
I'm on
tell.
LinkedIn way too
Yeah.
much, way too much, way too much. But yeah, so basically, we get you set up. You give us a list of folks who are going to be in your group or covered by your time. You tell us how long you want to work with agency, so it's month to month. And so, if you want to work with us for like a month, this month is, I think, Mental Health Awareness Month, and also Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And so, like, you want to work with us for this month to give out, some care or growth, gifts to your company. And I use that word gift, but services, products, etc. To some folks in your company, we can do that. We can also do, kind of longer term, as well. And yeah, it's really easy to get set up. And like I said, tech enabled and all the good things. Another thing that I didn't mention is that we're building partnerships with some of these companies, some more official partnerships where they offer discounts to the employee as well. And so these are exclusive discounts. It kind of, makes it so that you get something that other folks don't get. And it will oftentimes cover that, $7 a month, which isn't much to start with.
Yeah, so the companies pay per, like they can pay for 100 employees or pay
Yep.
for, and those that payment is not tied, like, I guess I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure
Yeah.
out how it works. It's not
Yeah.
tied to
Yeah.
an individual. They pay for the seats and then the employees use it.
Yes, they pay for the seats, and then the employees use it. And so, one of the things that you'll see on our website is where you say, like, use it or use it, and that is that we're not going to, like, take the money away at the end. And so, if, let's say, you paid for 100 individuals and only 50 folks used it, we hope that's not the case, but it could be. At the end of your term, we will, like, get back in touch with you, the company spokesperson or whatever, and say, hey, you still have this 50 seats worth of money. And then you also have these stipends that you put in.
Okay.
And so we'll say, like, do you want to extend it, right? You might want to extend it for those 50 folks so that they have another, let's say, 6 months with the agency platform and redistribute the funding to them. Or you might want to have the money back. So some companies can't do that because it's like budgets and annual year things. And so we also provide the option to donate it to a nonprofit. And so there isn't a situation where the money doesn't get used or doesn't get allocated in a way that promotes equity, which is, again, really important to us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so if you're an employer, if you're an ERG, if you're looking for a way to get a cheap, easy, quick way to get access to community organizations that are founded by people with lived experience, I mean, this is huge. This is an opportunity to do that in a single space and supported just by um, a lot of thoughts and work and lived experience to build a platform. I am really, I think this is huge. I think this is great. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for amplifying these organizations and their work. Is there a way to, so do people have to get access to see like what perks are available, what partners you're working with?
Yeah. So the partners are on our website. We have about 10 partners right now. And so the companies that we aren't officially partnering with, but are like enabling payment to, we can't put those on our website yet because we don't have permission to use their logos and we don't have money to get sued. So I don't think that would happen, but I am like a rule follower. It's a little bit of an issue. And so if you want to see kind of the longer list of companies, you can just schedule time with me and I can give you a tour of the marketplace and you can see them all listed out there. But there are some really fantastic ones, like a couple that I can mention live are Anise Health. They are specifically creating therapeutic and coaching solutions for folks who identify within the Asian community. And like, when I say that, like not just Asian practitioners, but also methodologies that work for that community. Okay. There's also, since it's APAHM, Shimmer Health that we partner with, and they do coaching for folks with ADHD. And so, a really great organization, very focused again on the needs of that community. And so, just like there's so many different niche offerings, and we're looking at diversity from all demographics because I'm a diversity expert. So,
right. Yeah. And there's no better way to have employee own what they need, right?
Yep.
To be able to search for based on your own criteria, yep. Right? You can choose what you need for this season. I think you described it perfectly. It's like, I might need this for this season, and then 6 months from now, I might need something else, and that's okay. I'll be able to find what I need when I need it.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So reach out to Desiree, reach out to myself if you have any questions. And I am looking forward to following up with you, Desiree. I think we're going to have a follow-up conversation.
I love it. Yes, let's please have I am actually, this is just how I am. So I feel like some people have like an on-air personality and an off-air personality. This is just me, pretty much all the time. So I love talking. I can
tell.
I love talking to people. Like, I'm an extrovert through and through. And so, if anyone wants to reach out, either, about bringing agency to your org or just wants to like connect and say hi or cheer us on. Cheering is very appreciated.
Well, we're
cheering out here for Black and brown.
We're cheering you. Thank you. We appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So any of those things are welcome. And I'm just excited to be a part of this community and an added resource for ERGs.
All right. Well, looking forward to talking to you soon. Bye, everyone. Drop your questions, reach out via email, and have a great day.
Yay. Bye.
Bye.